Hello, folks. Bill and Brian with Energy Row here on Refining Reality. So here we going. And tell you what, we are part of the Oil and Gas Global Network series of podcasts. We are happy to be part of that family. Let me, OGGN, if you haven't met Mark LaCour, your life is lesser because of it. I will promise you. If you get a chance to meet him, do that. If you get a chance to meet Paige, oh, that's pluses. Way above Mark. Way above Mark. So OGGN has multiple podcasts on various things too in the oil and gas. And so we're part of being that deal. So as we always say, OGGN, you put a little oggin in your noggin. That's what we always tell you to do. So they have over 20,000 subscribers and various different things. Learned something this week. And we are refining reality. We are not refining reality. We're talking about the reality of refining.
Right.
So, and they're not redefining reality either. So, yeah, I know it's play on words. So today we're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things to do. How do you take your refinery up to 11? Now, if you haven't
11.
seen, if you haven't
11.
seen Spinal Tap, you don't know what we're talking about. So if you have, you know exactly what we're talking about.
It's
When your
basically
volume,
it's basically in the movie, for those that haven't seen it, there is a volume on a speaker of this fictitious documentary of a band, and it goes up to 10. Well, the guitarist or lead singer, I forget which one, drew a one notch beyond 10 because everything stops at 10, and said 11. We go to 11. And
there
so
you
that's
go.
what it's brilliant. I butchered it, but it is a fantastic. It's just a fun ride. So, but
And
why are we
so the
talking
thing that,
about Spinal Tap? Why are we talking about 11 and Spinal Tap?
and I'm sure many people are actually asking that question, is because why are they talking about spending? So what we're talking about is that because of the demand today,
Hmm.
we are taking refineries to capacities that they don't often see. And
Right.
so when you do that, you take your equipment and everything to its max capacity.
Hmm.
And it's like having it's like, I tell you what, it's like my old Jeep. Now, Brian knows I have an old 1946 Willys Jeep. And I look at that speedometer goes to 70 miles an hour. There is no way on this earth that I'm driving that old thing at 70 miles an hour with the technology that sits underneath that chassis. Now,
Right.
could it go there? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that 48 horsepower motor would get us all the way up to 70, maybe downhill or maybe off a cliff. But the point being is that because of that Jeep is over 70 years old, approaching 80 years old,
Hmm.
that technology is not in its prime.
Right.
And if I took it to 70, it would take its prime plus. It would take it to 11 for sure. Probably more like
Or
15.
or if somebody wants to talk about having an iPhone 2 versus where we are now,
Right,
is another iteration. Is when you have newer equipment, you have better runtime, better operating. But most of
right.
our refineries have older designs, older equipment, right?
You take even the updates. If you average in even the updates to those refineries, because the average
Hmm.
refinery location is over 100 years old.
Oh
But
my gosh.
if you put in the average updates, and so when you do a new update, the refinery gets a new date, new start date, right? So if
Right.
you upgrade a tower, something like gets a new start date. Well, those are averaging right now about 65 years old. So,
So essentially, we have older equipment.
right,
And defining where we are right now, which is we are in a global market that is, we're recording this on July 3rd. I think it's probably going to drop in a week, week and a half. So the world could be different by the time you hear this, but
the world will be
um,
different.
it will be. Anyhow, for since February 28th, the Strait of Hormuz has been constrained on how much crude oil and refined products that can be exported out of the Middle East. Well, that has put a strain on global refined products. And when we're talking about refined products, we're talking about basic things like gasoline, petrol if you're in Europe, and diesel. So
Both
the
both road diesel and red dye diesel, which is off road diesel,
off-road diesel is going to be very impactful on agriculture markets.
right?
But
Construction markets.
essentially, because of the restriction of supply, and I mean, we have roughly 8 to 10% of the global supply down right now. And what that means is the global crude supply is down 8 to 10%. Well, that translates directly to diesel, gasoline, jet fuel. All of those have shrunk. Now, the percentages are a little bit different when you get to that. It's not a straight line from 8 let's call it 9%, from 9% to 9% less diesel supply, but there's a correlation. It's down significantly, but what
And
that's
so
done, oh, go ahead.
why do we have this topic today? That's because we were looking at a wonderful company called Energy Rogue that has a lot of great data on it. And I
Yes.
mean, I personally know one of the founders, and he's a really good guy. And then that Brian guy's pretty good too. Uh,
Yeah, he's pretty
but
good too.
we begin to look at how much how much we're refining, what our capacity is, how much we are refining compared to what we have been refining,
Hmm.
and it's amazing.
Let
It's
me.
we're pushing the
I,
limits.
I'm going to show three different charts, and then we'll talk about it. So the first is refinery inputs, and this is all inside of our Rogue Edge system. And let me take this up and clean it up. And what we will see is that we are refining more crude. This goes back to 2022. Let's go back a little bit further. Okay. In 2018, we refined a little bit more than we do right now, but guess what's happened? We've reduced our operating capacity probably by 1 million barrels. So we are running right at the top of our refining capacity because we actually track this right here. We are running 96%, almost 97% through our refineries, or 17 million barrels a day on 18 million barrels a day. And what that means is we're probably 3 to 4 percentage points higher for this time of year than we ever have been
Right,
on refinery utilization. So what does that mean? That means all of these equipment that we were talking about that is between 100 to 65 years old is running everything it possibly can. Or taking Bill's Jeep example, it has taken that Jeep to 90 miles an hour, which it was not designed for. So, and now why? Why are these companies doing that? It's because of this number, this last number that we'll talk about before we just go back to talking, which is the crack spread is up to $54. Prior to February 28th, it was oscillating between, well, let's actually look at a real example and go here and financial right here, and it will load up. But the $54 right here, this is back to the year 2000. What you can see here is during the Russia-Ukraine war, we expanded out to $60 from 20 on a spread. Prior to this war, we were between 20 and 30, and we expanded back out to this $60. What that means is, and the crack spread is the difference between the price of the crude oil input and the sum of all the products on the tailgate of the refinery. We're not going to talk too much about it, but it basically means how much money the refineries are making. And so,
right,
because of that, they are running this equipment full force. They were running as
right.
much as possible, right, Bill?
Exactly what you want to do. It's like any time you got to being out of the southern Midwest. I don't know what you call it. I just call it the flyover state here in Oklahoma. Uh, but you got to make hay when the sun shines. And so the sunshine is shining right now for the refineries. They struggle being in business somewhere
Hmm.
below $20 on crack spread. So when they're making money, they need to do that. So because these things are not cheap to fix. And so when something breaks, it's serious business. And
Well,
that's why, and that's why you've seen some of the refineries close because they just can't run them and keep them efficient. And so they've been closing. That's why we've lost 1 million to almost 2 million barrels worth of refining in the last 4 or 5 years.
right. Well, and
So
it's another reason I'm going to go ahead and mention our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by TracerCo, and one of the tools that refineries and petrochemical facilities can utilize is this fantastic technology that TracerCo developed. It's really interesting. We've been given a tour of it, and it's not so much the on-site diagnostic technology, but it's also combined with their data platform. So what they are is a global leader in diagnostic technologies. They basically do an MRI of vessels, of pipes, of equipment, and they provide real-time measurement insights for the refining and petrochemical industry so that you can diagnose, well, wait a second, if we're running 96% through this unit, could we run it to 98? Could we run it to 99? I mean, right now, as Bill said, refineries are trying to figure out how do I get to 100, but how do I get to 11? How do I
right,
get to that? But their technology combined with their equipment that basically does an MRI, it allows you. So prior to TracerCo, refineries would shut everything down and then take apart the equipment to look inside to see what was happening. Now you don't need to do that. This
right.
technology basically does an MRI and delivers like accurate real-time live data so that you can benchmark the operations, focus on improvements, determine things that are limiting that throughput, and actually catch problems before they limit that input. I mean, when we're
Well,
talking about a $55 spread, that is double from where we were prior to this. So refineries want as much of this uptime, and they don't want an unknown problem festering.
but the other thing is that not only does it help you see the problems before they become major problems, it helps you
Hmm.
see where you're not utilizing the capacity that you could be utilizing.
Right, right.
And so,
Well, and
because
that's
you're
why
thinking, well,
there is a link down below if you go to the website and you can learn a little bit more about their
right,
I think they call it Drum View. I think that's what it's called. Let's see, TracerCo. Tracerco.com, TracerCo, Drum Vision. That's what they call it, Drum Vision. And if you go to the website, you'll learn a little bit more about Drum Vision. And drop us a comment if you want us to connect with you or connect you with the right people at TracerCo because we've
so
met with
Brian,
these guys.
do you think they come up with that name because of the drummer in Spinal Tap? I'm just wondering.
Drum Vision.
Yeah,
I think the Spinal Tap drummers should be renamed that.
exactly. It could
Actually,
it
wasn't
could have
that the
happened.
theme? The drummer kept dying or something like
Yeah,
disappearing. So now we have a new drummer for Spinal Tap. It's called Drum Vision. So
there
Drum
you go.
Vision is going to be the new drummer for Spinal Tap. So, but what we wanted to talk about today is really we are living a real reality of refineries trying to optimize their performance and deliver as much product as is possible because number one, it's economic. Number two, the supply is short.
Right.
So there are countries, Australia and many countries in Asia that are on fuel restrictions. So, and Europe is also there. And I went over to Europe recently, and the petrol prices are insane. And the United States is really getting off lucky right now because we have so much refining infrastructure, but so much of our own supply as well. So that's why we wanted to talk about it because we felt like refineries are in a spot of how do we toggle it up to 11? And when you're thinking about any process, whether it is, well, let's talk about energy real quick. Is energy created?
No, all we do is harness energy. And what you do and especially in the fossil fuels, especially crude oil, what you're doing is you're taking a raw product that inherently about the only thing it can do is burn, and it burns very imperfectly in a raw sense of way because you can't harness any of that energy that's coming off the burn. And we begin to refine that, and what that means is just remember refine is that you know actually a chunk of coal is a diamond unrefined, right? I mean,
Oh
basically.
yeah. And
So,
ultimately, well, and what we're kind of referencing is actually the law of conservation of energy, and which is, or sometimes referred to as the first law of thermodynamics, which is energy is neither created nor it's destroyed. We only change its form. So when we're changing the form, the world exists with energy inside of it, inside of crude oil, inside of helium, inside of
right,
other elements, other components. We could talk about electricity and batteries and lithium. Like these things have components
right,
inside it. And so the refining is extracting the energy from a raw space to a refined space so that it can be actually consumed. Because nobody puts crude oil in their vehicle, they put petrol or gasoline or diesel.
right.
Um, and
And basically what it is, it's a manufacturing process.
mhm, yeah,
And what we're doing is we're taking raw product, manufacturing into various different products.
right.
It, and so that's what, and we call it refining because we're actually refining the crude oil. In other words,
Hmm.
a lot of times we're taking impurities out of the crude oil to make it better. And I love the term, we come up with this stupid terms in our industry. I don't know. We call it cracking. I mean, it's like, okay, is this like a pecan that you bust open the shell and you see what's inside? Not quite, but what it does is it begins to separate the elements into a specific use fuel.
I
And that's
actually,
what you,
I actually, my brain goes to Breaking Bad. I'm like, oh, are we going like, are we going to that direction? No,
I hate to say it, it's probably pretty close. It's probably
but the
closer to that than a
but the
pecan.
energy, the energy industry. To your point, the energy industry is horrible at this. Horrible at naming things. You
But it's not
know,
even that. It's when we're proud that we're horrible. That's what I hadn't quite figured out.
why is that? I don't
Yeah.
understand that. I don't
I've,
understand
I've,
that.
I've only been trying to figure it out for over 50 years.
Well,
And
it's kind of like when we get into ships. We're not going to talk about ships today, but the Suez Max and
yeah,
and the VLCC. Let's talk about those. Suez Max. Well, that sounds really like ooh, this is very technical, right? It sounds really
yeah.
well thought of. Where did they come up with that name?
That's because that's the max size that can fit through the Suez Canal. It's just that simple.
And and what about VLCC? Ooh, that sounds like something super duper technical, right?
Yeah, a
Bill,
very
like that's like
sounds very much like a very large crude carrier. So you know what happened when they made a bigger ship? We had the ULCCs.
what is that?
That's the ultra large crude
Oh
carrier.
my gosh. It's kind of like going to Costco and seeing the ultra large package of
Oh
toilet
yeah, that's right.
paper or
Right.
whatever. It's the ultra
And
large
so
and
after
yeah.
that learning session, now what's the Panama Max? Yeah,
Hmm. Does that have
yeah,
to do with the
exactly.
Strait of Hormuz? Is it, let
Yeah,
me
they've
think.
they've actually come up with a new one.
Oh,
Gosh, I was
really?
trying to remember what it was that fits in the new lanes of the Panama Canal.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
So,
gosh.
so when it comes to naming things, yeah, sometimes we're really bad at it. We're not. Of course, you realize that our industry's a lot of engineers, and when we go for creativity, the first call is not to an engineer.
Yeah.
So,
But It is logical. It does make sense. Very large.
Right,
Okay, it's very large, and this is why let's divert for just a second before we land the plane. But that's why when we're looking at the ships that are trapped in the Persian Gulf behind the Strait of
right.
Hormuz, and people are like, "Well, it's only a couple hundred ships." Well, each one of those ships is 1 million to 2 million barrels a day, or not a day, 1 million to 2 million barrels of crude.
Right.
That is a massive amount. So you're talking about as much crude existing there as it was in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in the United States, which is one of the largest prior to this event happening. So we've
And
drawn it
realize
down.
that that ship doesn't make one trip a year, makes multiple trips a year.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about capacity, now you're talking about beginning to affect on how we look at it as how many barrels per day.
Yep.
And so that's why that's important. What's important for it right now is what we try to talk about in the reality of refining is that there is a max capacity on every refinery.
Hmm. Yeah.
Refineries have their nameplates they have when they were built. The nameplate may or may not be the most that a refinery can do.
Right.
Nameplates were based on a lot of tests that were done maybe as long as 50, 60 years ago.
Hmm.
And there's been improvements since then, and the nameplates get adjusted a little. But when you have someone like Tracer Cole looking at everything, you can get a better understanding of what your nameplate really is and may be able to. So, what that does is that if you can move more capacity through your refinery, or for that matter, through any other plant that you have, because Treasure Cove is not just refineries. It works on
Right.
various other plants.
Petrochemicals.
All right.
Petrochemicals.
So if you can increase your capacity through there, that is basically free money.
Hmm.
And so that's why it's important to understand what you can do. And one of the best ways to do that is getting Treasure Cove out there to do evaluation. We've had conversation with you guys. If they can't do it, they'll tell you we can't do it.
Well,
But if
but
they
then I
can,
think about
they
the
can get your free money.
application. This fits on upstream, this fits on midstream, this fits on
Right.
downstream. And any vessel or process or like we actually on the upstream side a few years back had a condensation stabilization tower that was not running the way that it should. It should have had a capacity of 20,000 barrels a day. We were only able to get 7,000. And the only way they could figure out the problem was to put it out of service, which meant we had to shut in production and take it apart and lay it down on the ground and actually evaluate it. With TracerCo, you can just put these elements on there, or on the images, it looks more like a Google Nest device or something like that, that basically takes an MRI and don't shut it down, but it's going to tell you where those limitations are. So it's going to allow you to have less downtime and have identify problems before they happen. So,
So if nothing else, it's always, and Brian and I have done this our entire career, it's always worth having the conversation.
yep, yep.
So if you think there's an application, reach out to them. They would be more than happy to spend some time with you to look at this. And Fabio, that's our reach out to you. Okay. So, I
Yeah.
mean, guy with the coolest name in the world. So how
Oh,
can I
yeah.
say that?
Definitely, definitely. He doesn't have the flowing hair that
No, he
what
does
was
not.
that?
Harlequin Marvel,
Harlequin, yes. Yeah.
Harlequin novels. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he doesn't have the flowing hair, but he's a phenomenal guy. We're actually going to have him back, I think, in a couple weeks, and so we're going to talk a little bit in depth because he's a resident expert on all their products, and it really helps any
Right.
refinery run at any refinery or petrochemical run at its highest form. So,
Yeah.
uh,
In fact, if you're ready for it, you need to go after to your refinery dials right now. Take your magic marker, go past that 10 and mark an 11. And
yes.
that's where you can go.
Yes. Well, listen, folks, thanks so much. Thanks for spending time with us. We're Bill and Brian with Energy Rogue. If you want to follow energy markets, we have our link to our website. You can find out a little bit about that. We cover oil, natural gas, refined products, natural gas liquids, and power markets around the globe. So we have anything that you want to know about those markets, we have it down, so you can click that down below. If you are running a refinery or a petrochemical facility, reach out to TracerCo because more information will help you decide how you want to determine to get to 11. So thanks so much for being with us. Bill, do you have any parting words for our wonderful, illustrious crowd?
Just what we always say here at Energy Road. Data is good, but it's not everything. So you got to take your data, you got to turn it into information. You got to take your information and turn it into strategy. Take your strategy and turn it into action.
Yep.
That's what we can do, help you do. So you guys, like I said, this is being recorded on the 3rd of July. So we're about ready to celebrate the 250th birthday of America. So be safe, be kind, and go look at the fireworks.
All right, folks. Thanks so much, and we'll see you. We'll see you, or you'll hear us next week. So listen, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Let us know, drop us a like, drop us a comment, let us know how we're doing. If you want to hear about a particular topic, we definitely do. But thanks so much. Thanks for spending time with us, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to OGGN, the world's largest and most listened to podcast network for the oil and energy industry. If you like this show, leave us a review and then go to OGGN.com to learn about all our other shows. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. This show has been a production of the Oil and Gas Global Network.